At the end of Sefer Bereshit, Yosef's brothers turn to him and relay to him a supposed message from their father, asking him to forgive them. And Yosef responds by saying, Hatachat al tirau ki hatachat Elokim ani. I am not in the place of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to pass judgment over you, certainly not to punish you. And what's so remarkable about these words is that he seems to be paraphrasing his father in the way his father spoke to his mother before he was born. When Rachel turns to Yaakov Avinu and says, give me children, I don't have children. Yaakov Avinu was criticized by Chazal for responding, Hatachat Elokim anochi asher mana mimech privaten. That's not how you respond to people in pain. But Yosef might be saying that his father was fundamentally correct, that this has basically been the motto of his own life, what his father said to his mother. We are not really agents in the world. We don't really have any power. Providence is acting through us. That's been my conception of my existence throughout my life. And it could be that when you think about that approach in Avodat Hashem, that theological perspective, you understand many things about Yosef's career, to the point that he might have been legitimizing his own career and his own life in all the questionable aspects that it had. Why didn't he make contact with his father? Does he seem to have an end plan for his brothers? And the most painful, of course, is that when the Egyptians eventually turn to him and say, buy us up as slaves for bread, he takes the offer and he does it. And it could be, of course, that that's the reason why we were enslaved in Egypt. But Yosef, at the end, in responding to brothers in this way, is showing how cohesive and how coherent his life has been. Because the question isn't necessarily only whether you have the best approach in Avodat Hashem. The question is whether you will say those same things, not only when you have to gain, but also against your own interests. And when his brothers come to him and ask for forgiveness, he is able to say, it's not me. He is able to say, the same theological approach I've had throughout my life, this sense of hashkocha acting through me, it's correct even now. I can't take revenge. And the Gemara is full of different approaches in Avodat Hashem. Different legitimate approaches that are legitimate because they can all bring you to keep the mitzvot. And the Rishonim and Achronim argue about these very same issues. Rabbi Nuchunyo ben Akana seems to have a different position in the Gemara to Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadak and others about whether you should forgive someone, whether you need to forgive someone who hasn't really asked for forgiveness. And it's not clear that Yosef really feels his brothers have. And the Rambam seems to go in a different direction to how the Sefer Hasidim takes the Tosefta on this issue as to whether you should forgive someone who hasn't really asked for forgiveness. And there are different ways of Avodat Hashem. And when the Torah says, you say, Kochi votzem yadi asali et hachayil hazeh, some people understand that means that that's the most terrible thing you can say. And others, like the Ran and the Abarbanel, say, if you remember the cause, it's correct to say that you're an actor and you're an agent in the world. We have different perspectives on these things, and it makes a real difference for your life what your theological approach is, what perspective on Avodat Hashem you adopt, because you will live a different life. Perhaps you will live a better life, morally and spiritually, in the world around you, if you have a different perspective. And it's important to think about these things and argue about these things and learn from Yosef and Yehuda taking responsibility in ways that perhaps Yosef hasn't learned to, or it's not his derech. The Rishonim and the Achronim are full of it, and we have to deal with it, and it's important for our own lives. And yet, perhaps more important than what your approach is, amongst all the legitimate approaches that can bring you to keep all the mitzvot, is whether you're able to fully internalize any approach to the point that you live a cohesive and consistent existence, that your life makes sense, and that when you're turned to and you're given the opportunity to take revenge or to take a position that would fit your own interests better, it's obvious to you because you fully internalized a specific perspective in providence. It's obvious to you that you can't possibly act against what the Torah wants. And when Yosef HaTzadik, at the end, uses the exact same words that his father used to speak to his mother, he is legitimizing his whole life and showing how cohesive it has been, and showing how authentic he is, even if he did questionable things. Because the question at the end of the day perhaps might be whether a person lives an authentic life to the point that he's internalized the values so that he can't possibly act against what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And Yosef HaTzadik proves himself when, perhaps without being aware of it, he paraphrases his father in saying, "It's not me. The Ribbono Shel Olam is working through us. That has been the meaning of my life."